Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Factory Must Grow, episode 47, the first episode of 2026. Joining us on the line today, as usual, is Galdoc. How are you doing today, Galdoc?
Doing wonderfully. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. It's cold, but, we've only got, well, I say we have only got warmer to go from here. There's still another cold month, maybe, but I always like once January starts because it feels like the winter's at least halfway gone, but we'll see.
Optimistic where I live.
Yeah, maybe. But today we also have a special guest in Protocol 1903. Protocol, how you doing today?
Doing well.
It's great to have you
Glad
on the
to be here.
cast. So, we will not start with the mod spotlight as usual because one, I've run out of interesting mods to spotlight because my playthrough has not stagnated in the sense that I'm still having a grand old time with Pyanodons, but the mod part of it has mostly stagnated. I've got a pretty fixed set of mods. There might be a couple small ones that I add. I still need to add a belt visualizer because every once in a while I have a need to follow a belt that's snaking through my base, and I'm like, man, I need to download belt visualizer, and then I keep forgetting to do it. But we've already highlighted that mod. So today we're going to be talking about mods that I would generally highlight the whole time, though. So I figure our mod spotlight is the whole episode. So that's kind of why I'm not doing one today. And if this is my request to listeners and viewers, if you have a mod that you think would be good for a spotlight, and there are a couple conditions on that. Not every Factorio mod that's a good mod is a good spotlight. Generally, what I'm looking for is at least kind of a high total score along a few axes. So if it's got like a decent score on a bunch or a really high score on one of them, but like the axes are how popular is it? Like would a lot of people want it? If it's super niche, that's, not as great to highlight. Unless the thing it does is super cool or unique or like helpful to a very particular set of people. Like, maybe there's a mod for like people who are colorblind that's like AA+++. That could be a cool one to spotlight or something, but like in general, just mods that are either super special in some way. But if it's just a super popular mod that everybody uses, that's not a great spotlight either because everybody already knows about it. So we're looking for like under, the ones that are kind of the sleeper mods that people don't know about but might actually really love to use, that kind of thing. So if you have any of those, let me know in Discord or let Galdoc know.
We're kind of thinking the hipster version of like mods. It's like once
Exactly.
5 people know about it, it's like, oh, that's not cool anymore. I knew about it first.
Yeah. So bring us the mods that are cool before people know about them. But we'll go ahead and oh wait, no, I need to mention Patreon. As always, I want to thank the show's patrons. This show is possible because of you, the listeners. If you'd like to support the podcast or Galdoc, head over to patreon.com/Krydax or patreon.com/Galdoc to check out the memberships there.
Indeed. Thank you.
But with that, we'll dive into the main topic here. Protocol. We're going to start with a little bit of an about you section. So who are you? What do you do?
Well, I am a Christian programmer that does Factorio mods a lot. Studying at university for electrical engineering currently. Almost
EE.
done, finally. And I've been doing mods for the past, I want to say, 2 years. It's been really short.
Yeah, that's not a super long time. Did you do any programming before you got into modding, or was that kind of your ramp into programming?
So no, I did not do any. Sorry, I did do programming before modding, but all of my programming before modding was self-taught. So I had the unfortunate choice of self-teaching myself Java during the duration of COVID, which was not the greatest decision, and I wouldn't recommend it at all, but it is extremely useful.
Because you wouldn't recommend it because Java is the wrong thing to choose because it's too easy, too hard. Tell us more.
Java isn't the most, I wouldn't say accessible, but like friendly of languages. It has a very specific way it wants you to do things, and if you don't do it the way it wants it done, then you're going to have a lot of issues. And that is already annoying to work with, but when you're teaching yourself how to use that when you've never programmed anything before and you have nothing but the API documentation to go off of, it's not exactly useful.
Fair enough. My first programming exposure was Warcraft 3 custom maps. I feel like yeah, using Java was many years after that, and I was slowly eased into programming because some of my high school classes had a smidge of programming in them, and then like I took some engineering classes, and so I was kind of lucky on that route and didn't have to just dive in face first into a language. But
At the worst of all worlds, in as much as so as a teacher, I actually taught Java. It was AP Comp Sci, and
Oh, bless your soul.
that
I
class is
didn't know
still a
Java.
nightmare, by the way.
Like I literally am self-teaching myself Java before I teach it to the students. I was like a month or two ahead of them. I mean, I had programmed before, but
Yeah.
there were a lot of conventions that Java uses, in especially in terms of inheritance and sort of methodologies they use so that people can collaborate across larger projects. And
Yeah. You heard it
that
here
was
first, kids. Java, not even once.
that's not fair. I wouldn't do Java that hard.
Maybe
I mean,
once, but not first. Don't let it be your gateway
probably not
drug.
first.
Yeah,
I
pick a
mean, there's a
different
lot of
gateway drug.
conventions. It
It's
has a whole
good,
lot of
but
conventions that are good to know, but
yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for most applications. Definitely don't make a game out of it. Definitely don't make a game that sells millions and millions of copies out of it.
Right? Yeah, Minecraft is like but also Java was like a bigger fish in the pond because the pond was smaller and it was a larger relative fish in that pond when Minecraft was made, to be fair. But anyway, I'm very much getting us off topic already. So
no, this is fine.
back to the About You protocol. So you kind of told us a little bit about yourself. When did you get into Factorio? What's your Factorio story?
So Factorial for me started in late 2016. I found the Catherine of Sky series on, I believe it was Belt Diva, and absolutely loved it. It was wonderful. It was amazing. I then completely forgot about the game for like 4 years, and then found it again late 2020. Played it for a long time. Played a bunch of vanilla. Played a bunch of modded series that never really got anywhere, and then just started modding because that sounded fun.
Because
So then, oh, go ahead, Galdoc.
there's a common strain of I played a bunch of it, took a break of some length in excess of a year often, and then came back at some point. That seems to be a common theme in many of people's this is my Factorio journey.
Yeah, when did you start like with the game itself? When did you get into mods? Like did you play vanilla for a while? Did you immediately, cuz some people are like they download the game and they've downloaded mods before they even start it, which I always find an interesting approach, but like hey, you do you. But what about you? What was your transition into playing with mods like?
My first game was vanilla. Just a couple of quality of life mods. I think it was even distribution and two or three other things. I finished that game out through the rocket and kept playing it. Was enjoying it, but wasn't loving it. And then I tried C Block, uh, which was amazing. I loved it. And then they got rid of my beloved Steam assemblers, and I rage quit.
Dang,
I
that went
loaded
hard.
up the game one day after updating the mods, and they were just gone, and I
Oh,
Oh
was
no.
base
so disappointed.
breaking. Yeah, that's rough.
Yes. Uh, Played Crastorio, Space Exploration. They were good. I liked them, but the biters were always annoying. I did play Pi Alternative Energy when it was in the early beta. Never really got super far because things were just weird at that time. Um, and then played a couple of space exploration multiplayer rounds, which I never thought I would do, but I did, and they were really fun. Uh, Great group of guys to play with. And then
What style? Because this is something Galdoc and I have talked about quite a few times on the podcast. Is multiplayer? What style of multiplayer did you do? Was it like a 24/7 server where people would log in as they could, or did you guys like play together at the same time and the game only ran when you guys were there? Like how'd you play?
it's kind of funny. We did it in the most engineering way possible. We would the first, I want to say 24 hours or so of the server being live, everybody was popping in and out all the time, just doing whatever. And then after that died down, it was somebody would join. We had a task list of things to do. We would go do something off that task or go do something else we had discovered needed fixing, and then write it back down on the task board. And it very much felt like we had our Discord channel where everyone was like, "Yeah, okay, I fixed this bit, and then this other thing needs fixed, and this other thing needs fixed." And then every time we logged out, we would always send an update like, "All right, I did this, and this today. I noticed this thing needs fixed. The west wall needs some more defenses.
That's awesome.
It was the most engineering way to play the game I could think of.
Did you have like scrum meetings every now and again?
Yeah, we
Sorry.
actually did.
Wait, really? Oh gosh, that was a joke. Oh no.
Well, what I
Um,
love about that
yeah.
though is that in some ways exposes like the reality of why like engineers are taught to do things a certain way for a reason. Like it works. Like that's a really good way to have a successful and efficient factorial base. And it's like it's because it actually works. If you communicate really well with other people that are working on the same project, it actually helps you all accomplish things.
They call that a life hack.
Exactly. Exactly. So then, did you have experience? Because I noticed you said you got some quality of life mods even for your first playthrough. So had you played like modded Minecraft before? Because clearly you were mod positive before coming into. Was it because of what's her face, Catherine of Skies, like exposure to mods that you went that direction?
I had been playing modded Minecraft for
Yeah,
years
there it is.
at that point. I had already been on the sort of homebrew side of modding because for the life of me, I couldn't figure out that mod packagers existed. So I would
Oh,
download Forge individually and then
Oh
install
wow.
individual mods to create my own mod set all the
sweet summer
time,
child.
which was so much fun, but so annoying.
I believe
Yeah.
you. That sounds miserable. I mean, I've only done a little bit of modded Minecraft myself, but I think it was all the mods 10 has like 400 or so mods in it, which I don't know if that's kind of what you're getting up to, but that's what comes to mind when you say this. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I don't have
content.
experience with doing Minecraft that way, but Kerbal Space Program until I tried RP1 was that way for me because there it's for whatever reason it's a huge modding community, or well, I mean it's dwindled over the years, but it's been a very devoted and was huge at one point modding community, tons of mods, but there weren't ever mod packs. There was a mod loader that someone came up with called CCAN, which is really great, but there weren't packs. So you could download all kinds of different mods, and lots of them were even made to be compatible with each other. So you could make your own kind of perfect suite of mods that you liked, but there weren't mod packs like in Minecraft where people have taken kind of their particular version of a kitchen sink and they've then balanced things with each other and removed certain things that are like redundant or added certain things that bridge gaps that might exist now. And like no one ever really did that. To my knowledge. I mean, and I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of modded KSP, so it was always interesting to me why that didn't exist in Kerbal Space Program. And RP1 is sort of like that, but it's a little different because it's almost like a project designed from the ground up, and it actually only has a few mods in it because they've kind of become their own thing. But overall, I've always felt like the kitchen sink approach is really frustrating because my point that I was getting at was I had to like sometimes go into the files of certain mods because there was a conflict with this thing and that thing and I had to fix it, and like it was such a pain.
I'm vaguely reminded of my World of Warcraft days when they allowed mods in World of Warcraft, but that
Mm-hmm.
was all UI mods. And being a complete tinkerer, I would incessantly be downloading the newest and best, or whatever. Best may not actually apply.
You got to get your
Whatever.
recount set up just perfectly.
Dude, it was nuts. And like eventually they came out, I think it was Curse Forge or something like that.
Curse Forge. Yep.
And it's a whole new world. And I was like, this is great. I don't have to think about this anymore. So then it got riddled with that.
Man, you just awoke some deep memories in me, getting my World of Warcraft UI just perfect. And whenever you did a fresh install, having to like redo everything. Oh my goodness.
Misery.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every time an expansion comes out, you have to go back to the vanilla UI, and it is.
Ugh.
Anyways,
exactly.
Sorry.
So back to Factorio, as our tangents will go. What was the first mod that you actually kind of thought up and wanted to make? And I guess I will start with what even inspired you to make your first mod? Like, what was that like? I want to try making one. What was that point?
I want to say the inspiration for this mod was somebody's burner only run. It might have been Dash's. I don't know for sure. But I wanted to make a mod that just turned everything into a burner. Pretty simple premise, not simple execution for reasons that are very obvious to me now. I had no Lua experience at the time, so I started with the classic fire armor tutorial, which is still a great tutorial. And then I'm pretty sure I bugged somebody on the forums about all of my Lua issues for weeks until I figured them all out. But once it finally worked, it was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And it works. And I can install this other mod alongside, and those items are also all now burners. And then I can do this as well, and it was amazing. It was enlightening.
If I might ask, was it something? Did you do the code to procedurally go through the entities and turn them into burner variants, or did you manually go through the vanilla roster of entities and change them one by one?
I made the mistake of going through all of the prototypes in the game instead of just the relevant ones.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you understand why that's an issue.
I
do. But yes, it is procedural for all entities in the game. It will attempt to make them into burner variants.
I see.
So, and by that, you mean basically adding a fuel slot, adding the spent fuel result slot, like making sure that the energy usage is like, did you change any of that, or did you just leave that all default and basically just let it burn fuel?
So the first one, like the first version I released, was just adding the fuel slot, making everything into a burner. The second release was balancing everything around the fuel consumption of a burner inserter, I believe.
Okay.
I spent hours in a sandbox and looking at the code, comparing all of the energy use values, and eventually came to something like 40 times more energy use was about right. So all the things in the game got an energy value that was 40 times higher if they weren't already a burner.
That's intense.
Yeah.
So like to run an assembler tier 3, you need like multiple coal per second?
Yeah. Yeah. It was it really enforced the feeling of efficiency modules are actually good now.
Yeah.
Which I kind of liked.
I believe you.
Nobody used them before then.
Yeah.
And nobody still uses them.
Yeah, that's that we can get into this a little bit more later, but the idea of balancing your mod such that you can almost reawaken a need for something that has been, forgotten either in a different mod or in vanilla, I think is a really cool power of modding. By making something, in this case, you're not just making them use more power, you're also requiring logistics to each building to provide power. And now that there's a logistics cost to each building using power, the potential benefit of reducing that power usage is like, I'm not just saving my power generation area to be a little smaller. I'm actually saving logistics to this area. And so it's a much larger benefit to use efficiency modules there. And that's kind of a cool, like almost probably something you weren't even necessarily, I don't know, you probably weren't intending for that when you made the mod.
Nah, not really intending to, but it was one of those nice consequences. The
Yeah,
only other
exactly.
thing I can think of that does this, at least in mainstream Factorio, if that can even be called a thing, is on Gleba, since all of the biochambers use nutrients as fuel, if you module them, their energy use goes up, but then you can put efficiency modules around that to reduce that back down. I don't
Right.
know if anybody's done that though. I haven't kept up with Space Age and metas.
Yeah, I have no idea what the meta is. Other than my playing Space Age once, I've watched zero people play. I mean, being a Factorio content creator weirdly disconnects you from consuming content usually.
Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
I had
It
it's the exact same thing with me.
it does happen on the modding side.
Yeah, modding too.
It,
Like the more you mod, the less you consume other people's mods. It's natural because like it's like if you are constantly cooking your own meals, you're eating less of other people's meals. It's just, first of all, you have less time to do it, and it's now the thing you're doing, and you don't want to do it as much. You want to do other things with your other time.
It's, at least in my case, more that anytime I boot up Factorio and want to play it, I am immediately beset by the feeling that I could be modding right now, and there are people who want the mods that I have to make. And so if I have free time, I should stop playing Factorio and I should open up VS Code.
Yeah, that too.
That's for me. I don't know if that resonates with either of you, but that's my.
it very much resonates. I have
Yeah.
played maybe maybe 40 hours in the past year and a half.
Wow. And
On
most of
top
that's probably
of
been testing.
no, that those are actual play
Oh,
counts.
okay,
Testing is in the hundreds.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, that's
On
exactly
top
what
of the like 2,500 play time the couple years before that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, it's obviously modding and streaming, or YouTubing or whatever you want to call it, content creation. They're a little different, but I do think they share some DNA in the sense that you're producing something that is about the game, but you're not actually playing the game. Even though with content creation you are playing the game, it's playing to produce something. It's not just playing.
Right.
They're very different vibes. And so there's something about watching, someone else play that it fulfills some sort of niche inside of you, and something about when you're producing the content, my desire to consume content around Factorio just went to zero, and it's not like I dislike it or dislike streamers or it's not any of that. It's just like I just have no desire to watch other streamers play now because I'm the one doing the streaming, and somehow those are for me somewhat exclusive. And like if I were to ever stop streaming Factorio, I might start watching some content creators again. I don't know, but there's something about it that's like, well, now I have my community, I'm engaging with a streamer community. It's just Krydax's, instead of Bold Vikings or Catherine of Skies or whatever. It's like it feels like somehow that niche is kind of still filled. It's just a different way. I don't know.
So if I could bring us to the how-to of modding, if you don't mind me taking this one.
Yeah.
So I know what I've sort of said in the past, but I'm curious about your approach. How do you begin modding Factorio from your perspective? Like, what's your if I want to become a modder, what would you say to me?
I would say hopefully you've learned some programming before because it's always useful. If not, start with data stage. It's glorified JSON. Um, you don't need anything special. You can use Notepad if you really want to. I used Notepad for a little bit before realizing that there are much better alternatives.
No
And
shame in
if
that.
you have an idea, I mean, go for it, go try it. Check the API. You probably don't know what you're looking for, so ask someone else to find what you're looking for. But once you've found what you need, go try and implement it and see if it works. And if you're too intimidated by making your own thing, then open up the mod files of something else, probably something smaller, because bigger mods do things generatively, and that's not generally conducive to learning how to do things, but open it up, see how they do it, do it, screw around, edit some files, see what they do.
And just to sort of shore up what you mean by generatively, that's instead of actually saying, when you declare the properties of a particular thing you're trying to make in Factorio, instead you are running a small program that generates those properties or generates the values of those properties automatically. So it's sort of like watching a machine that does it rather than seeing the things themselves.
Yeah, so I think a short example would be recipe definitions. Most of the time you need a whole lot of excess information that doesn't really change in between recipes, but most bigger mods have some form of either external or internal library that they just plug a few specific values into, and then that spits out an entire recipe definition that they can plug into the engine.
I definitely abused the heck out of that ethos when I made my own mod.
And so in this trio of conversationals, I'll be the person who knows nothing in this, because I'm the closest to that compared to the two of you. Like, I know a little bit of programming, but I'm close to knowing nothing. And so when we're talking, so let's go half a step back to like the very basics of how you get started. Notepad++ is great if you don't want to do a lot of work like trying to get a more official programming thing set up. Windows Notepad does kind of suck, and Notepad++ is free. It's open source. You can download it in 30 seconds, and it's kind of made for, it'll color things based on programming stuff. So it's much more useful, and it, counts the lines on the left, so you can actually see where line 34 is without counting 34. So yeah, Notepad++ is the super basic thing there. And I also very much think that finding another mod and modifying it, or even just like in Pyanodons, when I was like, oh, I remember when I first started, I wanted robots to carry more, because back when I started, they only carried one at a time and they were super slow. And I was like, I think they should carry more. It's actually now in the game. I don't think I inspired it, but I did it first. I'm a hipster. Anyway, I was able to find the definition for the logistics robot and change the carry capacity from 1 to, whatever I changed it to. I don't know, 4 or 3 or 2. And then you save the file, and there you go. You just modded, right? And so I think that's a great recommendation, is to kind of find mod. And obviously, like, looking at the whole of Pyanodons would be overwhelming. But if you're just trying to change one little thing, you might be able to find that and change it.
The only thing I might add on to that is you don't have to zip a mod to run it in the game. You can just leave it as an open folder, and the game will just run that as a zipped mod, and you're perfectly fine. Because otherwise mod development would be absolute hell, having to re-zip it every time you wanted to launch the game.
Yeah, it's I didn't know that at first, so
I just learned that.
I didn't
You're
either.
looking at the face of someone who just now learned that. I think I've heard it
Green, I
before,
think, was
but
the one who dissuaded me of this, or something like that. But it was like, I don't want to keep zipping and unzipping this.
there's also I know that I know that I'm probably going to receive comments about use 7-zip, not WinRAR, but WinRAR does allow you to modify files inside a zip, and it will automatically save it and re-zip it with a prompt. And so that is what I did. Is I would open the zip, I could edit the file, and then close it, and it would re-save and zip it automatically. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I just like being able to manipulate with the Explorer window with no friction.
Yeah,
being able to drag and drop.
Yeah, that's actually a really great tip. I didn't know that you could just have the folder in there, and that would work too.
I think there's a bit of a conflict if you have both the folder and a zipped copy of it. There might be something there. I've run into issues with it, but that's easy enough to get around.
I think it just I think it uses the unzipped folder by default, and then you can select the zip version. Like under the mod, you can select versions, and if it's not the same version number, you can just select that from the drop down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Protocol, what would you recommend? So we'll just do a little bit more on the how to get started, because I love talking about this, because I think a lot of people have ideas and they're intimidated for one reason or another. And so I want to hit on as many of those reasons as we can, because I think we're all intimidated more than we should be by pretty much all of these reasons. So where would you go specifically? Let's be ultra specific in terms of what Discord channel can people go to if they're a total newbie they haven't done any of this, and maybe they haven't done much programming, or they're like just starting learning Python or something. Where can they actually go to talk to people to get help?
The best option for you would be, I don't know how good the Factorio forums are, so I'm not going to recommend that. It would be the Factorio official, unofficial Discord, mod development, mod dev help. I think I can link this in the chat.
It'll Twitch, you'll nuke it. Sorry.
Of course. But that channel is the best for learning Lua, learning how Factorio does mods, learning how to access the API and do everything you want to do. And I'm in there quite often helping people out. So that's
Like
your
me.
best option.
I just want to point
And
out that Protocol has actively helped me answer several questions that I have had in that exact channel. I just thank you, by the way, for that.
No problem. No problem.
If I could dovetail onto that answer, I'd also like to throw out Mod Dev Guide as a good channel that is in that same category, mod development.
Yes, that is. I haven't checked it recently, so I don't know what's there. But
What is
I
that
believe
channel,
it points to-
Galdoc?
It's basically a compilation of links to API documentation, tutorials, and various other things that you would want to read how to do Lua with, sort of like in a vacuum. It's got various tools that you could use, things that'll allow you to sort of get started with modding more quickly, essentially. And
Gotcha.
it would be a good thing to at least peruse it to see what is out there for you to use to support you before you start asking questions. I'm not saying don't ask questions, but it may help to build your own mental model of these things. I even have an entry here for the Blender tutorial series. So that's kind of cool. I forgot about that. I was looking at it now.
Yeah. And from the psychology perspective, I think the small piece I would add is ask yourself what kind of path you want to take into learning. Because some people get overwhelmed because they feel like they need to like read all the guides and build the perfect mod development environment and do all this before you even write your first 3-line mod. And that's okay if that's how you want to do it. Some people, they're in their 30s and they've done a lot of big projects in life, and that's the kind of project they now want to tackle, and that's totally fine. But if you are really intimidated by that and that's keeping you from getting started, then don't do it that way. You don't need to do it that way. Just fire up Notepad++ and write a couple lines in Lua and see if they work. And if they don't, ask someone in the Discord for help and they'll probably help you fix it. And then you're done. And now you've made your first mod. And so don't let the style that you've seen other people do or that you feel like you quote unquote should do, don't let that get in your way. Figure out what style do you want to learn and start going down that path. That's my only thought there. So the next kind of bigger... Oh, go ahead, Galdoc.
That is correct. The way I like to describe it is if I'm going to make something, if I have an idea in my head to make something out of wood and I go into a wood shop like a makerspace or something, and they have a ton of tools there, my first step is not going to be to learn in exhaustive detail how to use every single tool in there. I'm going to figure out what tools I would need for my project, adjust my project to say, maybe I do a smaller version of it that has me learning a few less things at one time, and come up with something that I would still like to do that still gets me sort of interfacing with those tools. And then just kind of go through the woodshop tool by tool, if you will. And this is not too dissimilar. So just good mindset to have.
Yeah. So Protocol, the next thing, kind of the larger topic here is kind of like you and your mods and how you go about designing them, because Galdoc and I have talked about design, game design, mod design, design of other things, life design. And so I'd love to hear your take on a lot of these topics. So we're going to dive in to start with, how do you decide which mods to make? Because obviously, like, there's an infinite amount of creative potential out there. There's a limited amount of things you can actually do with the Factorio engine, but the ideas are unlimited. So how do you even get your ideas for mods? Where do they come from? Where are the sparks?
I am one of a few developers with an open door policy, if you will. If somebody comes to me with a mod idea, I will see if somebody else has already done it. And if nobody else has, I'll tell them whether or not that's feasibly possible within a reasonable amount of time and scripting overhead and all that. And if it is, and I'm willing to do it, I will go and do the work for them so that they don't have to. So that's where about half of my mod ideas come from, is somebody
It's a
saying,
dangerous
"Hey,
thing to
I
say
want
to
to
me.
do." It is very dangerous. But somebody just says, "Hey, I want to do this, that, and the other," and I'll be like, "Oh, well, you could do this, this, and that." And it's like, "Well, I don't want to program it." "Oh, okay, then I'll do it for you." So that's about half of them. The other half are I'm playing the game and I notice something that could be different. I don't want to say better. I don't want to say worse. Just different in a more interesting way to me, at least. Or I'm sillily enough scrolling the API documentation and being like, oh, I don't remember that function being there. I wonder how I can use that in a fun way, and seeing where that goes.
Proxy inventory. That's great. I need to make mods around it.
Exactly.
that's that's kind of awesome. That makes me think of like when when I'm playing Path of Exile, I'm like, oh, I want to try a cool new build, and I'll just randomly look at like items or skills and be like, how could I do something different with that? Or like Magic the Gathering, where you see a cool card and you're like, how could I build a deck around that? I love that.
It's very much the same thing.
Yeah. So then, like, you get the idea, but does the idea come from this sense of, and I guess this is pretty personal, so it's not like other people can try to copy it, and that's fine. But I'm just curious, is it an idea that comes from your, because obviously in the latter idea, you are looking for mod ideas, you're looking through the documentation. But when you're playing the game, is it more like I'm playing and looking for mod ideas? Or is it you're playing and the mod idea kind of came because of friction you ran into or something you didn't like or wanted to change?
It's always friction of some variety.
Okay.
Um, I don't remember what the most recent one was, but I'm trying to remember what the last one was.
I am pulling you. I
Oh,
have you up on the mod portal and all of your stuff.
the mod portal is not a good indicator of what my mod ideas are
Oh,
recently, because
fair
they
enough.
very much take a long time to develop sometimes. I'll get into that later. But I think the most recent one was me playing the game, and then I was talking to somebody else on Discord, and they were trying to figure out how to get the temperature of a fluid. And I realized that there's no way to get that on the circuit network. So
Uh-huh.
I went and built thermometers, which lets you read the temperature on the
Oh, that's
circuit
super
network.
cool. Oh man. My brain just exploded with ideas when you said that.
There was a mod for that a long time ago, but this was like around, I think it might have even been pre 1.0, so, or something along those lines, and it broke forever ago and never was functional again. And I always wanted one, and now that you have said it, I want it. I didn't
I
realize that there was another one
believe
there.
there's one on the portal right now called Temperature Combinator, which is
That was it, I think.
it's I think that's a port, or it's a fork of it, the 2.0. But I don't love, me personally at least, the style of mods where it's like a combinator
Hmm,
or a separate building next to another one,
I see.
which kind of gets into my modding ethos. It's very much, it should be seamless from the player perspective compared to vanilla,
That
which
makes sense.
adding in a separate building on the side is not
Right.
seamless.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
They're almost
thermometers are built
different.
to be seamless.
They're almost different functionalities. Like
Nice.
you could use one or the other, but yeah. So once you've got your idea, maybe it's like, oh, I can't read temperature, or maybe it's like, oh, what if all the buildings were burner, or oh, what if all the chests in my base were connected to each other and the entire base was one chest, and but you only had 48 slots still. So like you could never have
Well, don't give me
more
more
slots than
ideas.
those
I, was gonna-
48.
I can see where your mind is going here, Krydax.
Yeah, so like let's say you're making these, you have these ideas. Where do you start? What's your process look like for you when you get an idea? Where do you go from there?
I usually start with all the prototype stage, data stage things. For those who don't know, Factorio is split into before the game starts, if you will, and then while the game is running. Before the game starts, you load all of your prototypes. That will be assemblers, inserters, belts. After the game runs, it's all scripts. I will always start with the prototypes, the base items that the game needs to run. If I'm adding some, then I'll add those there, and then enter the game, load up a sandbox editor, and make sure they work as intended, and then just start hooking up scripts to them to do whatever they need to do.
At this point,
Usually
would
the
you have,
for,
sorry to interrupt, would you have art for that building or thing that you added yet? What would you
oh,
do for the
absolutely
art?
not.
Gray box.
Gray box, or steal it from something else, or put a little doodle on and say that's good enough for the first 4 releases of the mod. Um,
It's my starter mod.
I very much am not a graphical designer and have never been and probably will never be. So I don't think I have made a single piece of art for my mods to use in game. It's all been just copying something that vanilla does or vanilla has, or texturing it slightly differently with a tint, or taking it into Photoshop and editing out parts of the file so that it looks slightly different, but it's really not kit bashing at all. It's just cropping things out.
Sure. That makes sense. So then you've got your prototype stuff. Then obviously you work on like the functionality of scripting stuff. Where does it go from there? What's the iterative process?
So for scripting, I start with the base functionality to get the idea itself working, and then all of the surrounding scripting to integrate it with the rest of the game. So for some things, it's getting it to work with blueprints, which I still need to do for thermometers, I think. For some things, it's copy pasting. The shift right click, left click is technically a copy paste that you have to account for, so accounting for that. Uh, Moving entities around. When you're picking up entities, you have to delete all of the relevant data in the mod storage. Otherwise, you're going to run into other issues. And then at some point, packaging it all up and sending it off.
Yeah, that makes
Pretty
sense.
concise, actually.
Yeah. So what do you like when you're managing all of this and you're writing the code and then you're testing it and then you're updating, like that's, I think we can all kind of envision any project that we've worked on and kind of understand at least the nuts and bolts of that, even if we're not a coder. But the part that I think is harder to know and harder to understand from someone that hasn't done it, so if you could expand on this a little bit, what does it feel like to kind of balance it and design it? Like, are you running into situations where you start playing with it and it doesn't feel like you thought it would, and like it, I don't want to use the word fail because everything's moving you forwards as a modder, but like, do you ever have these things where you're like, I had this idea for a mod and it sounded cool, but then you're like actually implementing it and you're successfully doing it from the like modding perspective, but from the playing it and testing it, you're like, but it doesn't actually produce the feeling and the results that I want it. Like, does that happen? And what do you do when that happens?
That one is pretty rare, at least for the mods I've made. They're either simple enough that that doesn't apply, or complex enough that the vibe I'm going for is completely of my own design.
Gotcha.
So I don't
I am
think I can
profoundly
properly answer that
jealous of you.
question. The sole exception for that would be anything I do related to pie development, but that's a completely separate topic.
So then with the design piece, how do you iterate on the balance? Like what's that look like for you? How do you know, once you've started implementing your idea, how do you know what numbers to pick, for example? For like your example of the boiler, or not boiler, burner, everything's burner. How did you do that? Give us a little bit more nuggets of the actual process.
Uh, you cut out for a second. What were you
Oh,
saying?
sorry. So like when you're balancing your mods, what do you actually do to do that successfully, or in your opinion, successfully?
Um, Most of the time, I try to stay at least near vanilla balance, so I don't change things that are outside of my mod scope. And if it is within the mod scope, I try to make it consistent between all the pieces. So for the burner only mod, that would be making everything take the same amount of power relative to what things are already burner. Um, I don't think I have any other mods that would touch balance much at all.
So then, I guess I
You
more
like?
mean like with your mod's balance, not just necessarily the numbers, but also just how the mod like plays out. Like we'll get in. Maybe this is better to kind of get into some of the actual mods themselves. But with all of them, there's kind of some ability to change balance, not just with numbers, but also with like how does the design feel, like whether it's the UI or kind of the design of how the mod interacts with itself and everything else. If that makes sense. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job of explaining this.
I try and keep my mods feeling like they're vanilla, and if not part of the engine, then like a vanilla expansion, kind of like parameters. So it should feel clean, it should feel integrated. You should be able to use it with basically everything, if not everything. And if there is a GUI to it, it should be the same vanilla style, preferably the same like layout and like styles, I guess. I guess keybinds. I try to use vanilla keybinds if they're already existing, and if they're not existing, then creating something that's similar to vanilla keybinds, but not quite because they obviously have to be different.
So if I could try to sum it, it's like you're essentially trying to make something that feels like it's a natural extension of the game itself, that sort of utilizes the pre-existing schemas that players have, so that they can immediately interface with it without feeling the need to learn stuff about the particular implementation you've done, and can just do the thing, whatever it happens to be, whatever the mod covers. Is that about
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That
love
makes
that.
sense.
So the idea is kind of almost just like your ethos there is a little bit like I want the player to almost not even know they've installed a mod.
Yes.
Like if you were to
And
have this mod installed on vanilla, it could just be a slightly different version of vanilla.
I have gotten that told to me before, like, man, this feels like vanilla. Um, and I love it. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
because it tells
that's
me I
what you're
did my
going
job
for.
well.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
the one that, not my mod, but the one that I think of that always gets me, because I thought it was vanilla, was the planet view in space. I always
Ah,
thought that was vanilla until very recently.
Wait, what do you mean planet view in space? What are we talking about?
There's a mod that allows you to view when you're looking at a space platform that's hovering over a planet, say Vulcanus, it will show a picture of Vulcanus behind the platform.
Oh, yeah.
And it's integrated well enough. It's subtle but not subtle enough. You notice it, and then you're like, someone else is playing the game and they're hovering over Vulcanus in a space platform, and you're like, wait, where'd Vulcanus go? And you realize that it's not vanilla.
Yeah, that one I remember was a massively requested thing the moment Space Age came out. People were like, why can't we see the planets underneath the thing? So, yeah, for sure.
I still have thoughts about things they could have done with the graphical stuff from space, but that's actually it's a very clever way of doing what they were trying to do to get that image there, by the way. So, yeah, good times. I really like that one.
Yeah. So, one other kind of meta question, and then we'll dive into some of the actual mods, which will give us lots more kind of fuel to talk about design stuff. When you make a mod, because I think a lot of people, people have different goals when they set out to make mods. And for some people, they're wanting to meet a need of others. For some people, they're wanting to meet their own needs. For some, they're wanting to experiment and practice. For some, they have big dreams of making a giant overhaul mod. And, so for you, does the reception of the mod matter? Like when you release a mod on the mod portal and maybe you share it in, a Discord channel here or there, do you care if anyone downloads it? Do you care if people like it or hate it? Like where are you at with kind of your public facing side of things?
I very much don't look at the download count. I don't recommend that anyone does. It's the same thing as looking at like how many viewers you have on Twitch or how many views you have on YouTube. It doesn't help unless you're Arendelle or Mr. Beast. It's not going to help you at all.
But my
As far as
dopamine.
reception goes, I don't like when people dislike the mod because that usually means I've done something wrong. But there has been a couple of times where someone's like, "But this mod doesn't do what I want it to do," and I'm like, "Buddy, it wasn't designed to do that." And in that case, I don't care because you're expecting apples to be oranges, and that's not going to work.
I want the module
Um,
inserter mod to do my taxes, and if you don't, I'm going to leave a nasty review on Reddit.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
yeah.
No, that's okay.
Uh, but sometimes people come along and it doesn't do what they want it to do, but they have an idea of like it's like tangentially related. I've had a lot of those ideas for the mod. What items do I have? The entire mod idea was a user requested one, and it was pretty terribly implemented. And I kind of just shipped it as is, and then I have so many ideas that have come up over the past year where I've been like, oh, well, what if you do this for the mod? And I was like, that's amazing. Why didn't I think of that before? And then implement it. And then someone else is like, well, that feature you just added, what if it also does this? And the entire mod has just exploded because of it.
Have you ever had that moment when you have a mod, you're working on it, you share some of your details, and then someone says, wow, that's really cool. Have you considered X? And then you go, wow, that's actually brilliant. But that invalidates everything I just did. And now I have to like either start over again or make some massive changes. And
I
uh,
have. Um, I'll get to that later.
Yeah,
oh,
I was
okay,
gonna
fair
say,
enough.
I feel
Okay,
like that all three of us just felt
put a pin in that.
the feeling,
Yeah.
because for me with content creation, I'll release my videos and people leave a comment on the YouTube where they're like, "Why didn't you do it this way?" And I'm like, yeah, why didn't I? Good
Yeah.
question.
The answer is shut up,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Come
The answer
on.
is because I wanted to. Which honestly, I say that as a joke, but like sometimes that is a correct answer. It's like, you know what? You're right. That actually would have been more efficient, but like I actually like doing it this way and I'm not here just for efficient. So sometimes that works with the content creation. But anyway.
It does
Okay, so
happen on the modding side as well.
yeah. Yeah. So let's dive into some of the actual mods because this will give us good fuel for like talking about kind of some of the other stuff we've already hit on a little bit. So, what are some of, let's just kind of go through a couple, like some mods that you have thoughts on or specific fun processes of successes or failures, even in the mod creation, kind of pipeline timeline. Where do we want to start?
We'll start with the second mod I made, which was Note Pipe Touching, which is a fork of Incompatible Pipes by Sticklord for, I think it was not point 16, and it has a sad 18 downloads, which is very sad because that is an amazing mod. But the 1.1 version was basically a port of the mod, and I added some minor features and
So, what does the mod
reworked the
do,
script a
to
little.
be clear?
Uh, all it does is make pipes of different materials. So, like in Pi, you have the basic pipe, then the multi-purpose, and the niobium. Those pipes don't connect to each other. In Bob's, you have the basic iron, you have the stone pipes, the copper pipes,
Gotcha.
the plastic pipes. None of those pipes will connect to each other. They'll
And
only
when you
connect
say
to the same
connect, do you
version.
mean the regular above ground pipe, like smooshing onto each other, or do you mean undergrounds connecting underground, or both?
There's an asterisk there. In 1.1, you can't change how underground connections connect. So in this case, it was only the above ground connections.
Gotcha.
So you could have a string of plastic pipes and a plastic pipe to ground because I believe I made it so that the above ground part of the pipe to grounds would connect to only the same connection, but you can't edit the underground connections. So you could do a plastic pipe to ground and a copper pipe to ground, and they would connect. So
Gotcha.
that's how you would bridge gaps between different networks. And that was the entire mod. It was very script heavy, very annoying. It had bit masks everywhere. It was chaos. And then 2.0 comes out. I port it to 2.0, not too many issues. And then someone comes along. I don't remember if it was in Discord or if it was in the mod discussions or what. But somebody was like, "Hey, why don't you go use these connection categories that were added in 2.0?" And I was like, "No. That's a different thing. That's not related to uh, pipe connections." And it was like, "No, that's what they use." I looked at the API and I had my moment where I go, "Oh, why haven't I been using that before?"
Did,
So, pipe connection categories had been something we'd been asking for years, and the devs have kept saying no, and then
one
they
day,
invented
right.
Plasma for 2.0
We both
and
know who
said,
I'm referring
"Oh,
to.
yes." They invented Plasma and went, "Oh, we don't want this in pipes. Well, let's add this thing that they've been asking for years so that we can have our Plasma not connect to pipes." And then we had it. So I went and implemented that. It went from 90% scripts and maybe 15 lines of data stage to a couple hundred lines of data stage and zero script overhead, which
Yeah.
is amazing for a mod.
Because that
Uh,
basically makes it performance negligible. Like it doesn't affect performance
it's
at all.
it's performance zero for all
Yeah.
intents and
Yeah.
purposes. It's
It
320
couldn't be lower.
lines right now, which
It's in
is
the actual
not
like it,
bad for data stage.
Yeah.
and
Um,
it if I can chime in for a second, it's actually interesting because they're in the mod I was working on it. I basically had to use that, and in 1.0 I wouldn't have been able to do it without something like no pipes touching.
yep.
And then they added that, and I was like, oh, that's. And I remember having the discussion with someone who was like, dude, it's there, and I'm like, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. The API they said that they weren't going to do it, and that's gospel. So yeah. Anyways,
And then 2.0 drops and you look in the API and there's this funny new function that says connection categories.
it's great. It's
Um,
absolutely great.
so that was amazing. And then the next 6 months were trying to make everything else compatible because the old scripting was automatic and worked great. And then 2.0 dropped and there were about a dozen new mods that I had to be compatible with. And all of the old mods didn't work for one reason or another. And the one reason or another was because connection categories work on underground connections. So you can specify what underground connections can connect in 2.0, which is amazing, but then that breaks things like advanced fluid handling. It broke, I want to say it was more pipe to ground, which was another mod. It broke so many things,
Mhm.
and there was actually a limit on how many connection categories a pipe could have, or a pipe connection could have. So you could only
Oh,
have 8 connection categories globally, meaning if you, at least for how my mod worked, if you had more than 7 or 8 pipes, because each one had their own connection category, or 7 plus plasma, then the game would just crash because it wouldn't
Hmm.
appreciate that. So we had issues with notably color coded pipes because it adds 20, 30 different pipes, and then I had to work around that, and that was annoying. So we chatted back and forth about how to fix that, and then like the next version later, we had a note in the changelog that said if you have more than 8 connection categories globally, the game will use an expensive handler for them.
oh,
But we won't be considering performance here because that's on you.
So does that mess
I'm
with
So
glad you know
runtime
that. I was looking at
performance?
yeah, so that would be whenever you're placing a pipe down or something with a pipe connections, then it'll have to check the things around it to see if it can connect. And it
Gotcha.
has to check if there's a connection there, and then if the connection categories are valid so that they can connect. And if you're using the expensive mode, then it'll have to run multiple bit mask checks.
And is that like an in squared situation?
I believe so,
Because it has to
yes.
check every
oh,
channel
really
against every
in
other
square.
channel, is my presumption, but I don't know anything.
Yeah, so it had to do the original implementation was an O1 operation because you would just compare two bit
Yeah.
masks because it was limited to 8. But then they added multiple bit masks, so you had to connect check each bit mask against every other bit mask. So that would be, if you have 2 bit masks total, then you would have to check 2 from the first entity, from 2 from the second entity. So that would be, that became n squared very
Interesting.
fast.
Wow.
So that explains what happened with advanced fluid handling then, because I remember when I ported that into the Pi Season 3, it initially, and I think it defaults to allowing pipe weaving, where you have like different colors of pipes not connecting to the undergrounds of other colors of pipes. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I want them all to connect. Because I don't do belt weaving, so I don't really intend to do pipe weaving either. But it was just kind of a funny, like, oh, that's like something I'd never even considered doing. And now it's like an option. And yeah.
Yeah. And then I had issues with plasma, because the initial implementation had plasma accessible to pipes, because I just overrode the fusion generators and said, yeah, you can connect to pipes, which didn't work. And then the update after that, I believe, broke it so that steam turbines and steam engines wouldn't connect to pipes because they're technically filtered on the fluid boxes. So it took like 7 or 8 updates to figure that out properly. And then a mod came along to allow you to put plasma in pipes, and that broke everything all over again.
always good times, right?
Yes.
I'll take the flexibility though. That's cool. And I gotta say that is one thing that I genuinely appreciate is that yes, performance is something to always keep an eye on, but there is a value to saying, listen, modder, you have these tools, and if you abuse them, you will tank performance, and the responsibility will be squarely on your shoulders. But
Oh, well, if you
when
want to go that route, then we can talk about a different mod next.
ooh, by all means.
So this is very much the same talk of, well, we didn't want to do that, except this one turned out with, fine, I'll do it myself. This would be non-standard beacons. I posted, whenever I finally posted the mod, I put that meme in the dev showcase channel. It was the fine, I'll do it myself, grabs the Infinity Gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
I have an Infinity Gauntlet somewhere here. I wish I had it with me.
So non-standard beacons. My brain goes a lot of places when I hear those words. What is this mod?
Where does your brain go? I'm curious.
My brain goes to, I mean, non-standard, it could mean literally anything. But, obviously there's like shape, size, color, all the physical properties. But it more goes to somehow they do something different than just modify the basic like speed, power, consumption, productivity, pollution. But the other options could be like they have different module slot, like different beacons can have different module slots in a way that isn't just like separate entities, like beacon 1, 2, and 3, but somehow the same beacons can have different, like what's the word? Like the number of module slots could change over time somehow, or like something like that, something weird. That's what I think of.
So non-standard beacons, the initial implementation was beacons with energy sources that are not just electricity. So burner, fluid,
Okay.
and heat powered beacons.
Oh, heat.
Which is really cool. But the devs didn't want to do it, so I had to do it myself. So the initial implementation was you had this assembling machine in the same spot as the beacon, and that would be consuming the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just periodically check the assembling machine. Is it on? All right, turn the beacon on. Is it off? All right, turn the beacon off. Which was really, really performance intensive, but it was actually not that bad. But for the amount of beacons you use, it was terrible. At some point, I found Quezler certified jank, which is connecting the source assembler to the circuit network and sending that to another assembler and having that assembler turn on when it receives a signal, which consumes an item, which triggers a Lua event so you can do things. And I use that to basically have the assembler fire an event whenever it turns on and whenever it turns off.
So that way you're not having to check. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So now there's quote unquote zero runtime overhead on the beacons because they just do it by script. And Black ATM is the reason we have this mod. I was planning on getting to it anyway, but
What's
Yeah.
hilarious to me about this is like you literally did like incredible machine contraption like inside the game to like do the script. You didn't actually like write a script. You're like, instead, let's just put a bunch of ghost like Rube Goldberg crap inside the game that actually does the programming for me. And somehow that's better.
So
That's
here's the fun
hilarious.
thing. It gets better.
Oh man.
After that was done, I was able to simplify most of the runtime scripting down to just creating these compound entities, which is still the jankiest thing I've ever implemented because there's so many issues with it, and I'm waiting on a very specific library to get released because that will help. But until then, this is how it is. There was the option for, hey, the actual energy source is separate from the beacon now. What if the beacon modules affected the energy source? So if you put modules in the beacon, they affect how much power the beacon consumes. So the initial implementation for that was just allowing the source entity to be affected by beacons. So that means if you put a beacon down, it consumes coal, let's say. You put efficiency modules in it, it's going to consume less coal. But that also means if you put another beacon next to it, that beacon is also going to consume less coal, which is a really cool idea. And I released that as a separate mod that just says, hey, all these beacons, yeah, they also affect each other and how their energy consumption goes.
But that can work without the ghost entity. Those are like two separate ones, right?
No, it all requires the same overhead because
Okay.
you need the even if it's an electric energy source, it needs to be separate from the beacon itself.
Oh, so you can't have beacons receive other beacons' effects?
Yes.
Even if you wanted
And
to turn that
I
on?
put
Interesting.
that through as if you want it, because if you need to use those, you need to use an electric energy source. And if you want to use an electric energy source that's custom, I had it do a custom source type, which I believe I can't remember if it was Code Green or Osmo that came up with, but it's Electric 2, Electric Boogaloo. That's what you name it.
Of course.
And yes, that is a huge nerf to speed modules, and that's the intent, is that you're more cognizant of what modules you put in beacons and other things to make them balanced. And then the other idea off of that was, well, what if they don't affect each other? What if they only affect themselves? So then there's a bit of more scripting overhead to say, hey, this beacon only affects itself. Create two more entities that I'll get to in a second.
Oh my god.
But the module,
I'm getting
the module
anxiety
slots.
listening to your description right now. I just want you to understand this. Like right now, I'm like, my heart is thumping in my chest, wondering how far this goes.
the module slots of the energy source entity copy the modules of the beacon itself, which is simple until you realize you need to figure out when modules are inserted into the beacon.
Uh-huh.
So I hooked onto the same logic that controls when I turn the beacon on and off and added more entities just to figure out when to turn or when to add modules and remove modules from the source module slots.
Were you able to use triggers for that, or did you have to use events?
So that one's still events. What I did was I put a proxy inventory connected to the module slots of the beacon, connect that to the circuit network that controls when events are fired,
Yeah.
and add a combinator that inverts the signals from the module inventory so that I cancel out what's already in there.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
I held this up silently earlier, but you said something that means that this is now needing to be seen, and this is a pair of eyes. And
Yes, those eyes need to be seen because that's what started this whole mod.
So for the listeners, he just held up a post-it note with two eyes drawn on a circle, which is
wide eyes.
directly referencing the emoji.
Quesler's favorite react to literally everything.
Yeah,
Hey,
Quesler.
it's a great react.
It is.
So,
It is.
so all
I've
this
never
to
seen it
say, where did it end up? Did it end up with them affecting just themselves or self and others with the beacons?
So right now I have it so that they can only affect either nothing, themselves, or others, including themselves, but not the two implementations together just because it causes issues with how modules are calculated. I haven't figured out how to resolve that properly, but you can use
Probably with
either
more
system
hidden
on top of each
entities.
other. Yes, which I really don't want to do. So
How many
we're
are there?
skipping that for now.
You went through a whole lot. We got a combinator, we got the beacon, the assembler. How many hidden entities are stacked on one of these things?
So the base implementation where it's just a different energy source is the beacon, the source entity, and the monitor.
Okay.
The implementation where it affects itself is the or the beacon, the source entity, the monitor, the the manager, that's the one that fires events, the monitor, which is the proxy inventory, and the mimic, which is the inverting combinator.
That's 6. This is
Uh-huh.
why
That's great. I love it.
this is why I have trust issues.
How does the performance actually measure out? Have you like done some testing on that?
If your base is static, there's 0 overhead.
Okay. Static in the sense that the beacons are just on and you have sufficient power.
If they're on or if they're off.
So the only performance hits are when your beacons are being turned on or off, which could be the result of lack of power if you're fueling it with steam or heat or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's not bad
And
then.
The
I
only
just want
other consideration there's technically a bit of circuit network overhead because circuit networks can be expensive, but it's not terrible compared to the scripting that would normally
Sure.
be there.
So then,
so
oh,
can
go
I ask a
ahead, Galdoc.
question? So, as part of an idea that I have for one of my mods, it involves basically having to use um, compound entity beacon approaches in order to do a lot of stuff. So, it wouldn't necessarily be the case that every single assembling machine got its own sort of like pet beacon, if you will, but it would be a lot of them. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how bad would the performance hit be if I actually went through with this?
That depends on what you're doing with them. Pi has a lot of hidden beacons. Every turd building basically has a beacon. All of the vat brains are beacons with assemblers on top.
It would
So
probably
it's
be analogous to that.
manageable.
Okay.
Depending on how you implement it, pretty manageable.
Okay. I have an idea that I'll at some point share with you, but I'm afraid to because it.
I'm happy to hear.
Although you, at some point, I'm just going to like summon you to the dev area of my server and be like, okay, so here's a info dump.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then the one last thing that I'll add, which is the piece of jank that we just discovered yesterday,
Ooh.
is as Galdoc knows, tooltips are notoriously hard coded. You cannot change them at runtime,
Mm-hmm.
except you
Mm-hmm.
can. Uh, you might want to pull up the stream for this just so people can see. This
Okay.
is a entity that has custom values that are adjusted at runtime.
Okay. But
And they do this.
how?
Where'd it go? They do this by setting the custom status of the entity, which is the little dot with the red green light, to something that has overflow lines to other information.
The dot?
What dot do you
Yes,
mean?
so this little dot that says charging, it normally says like working or waiting for
Yeah,
modules or out of fuel.
the green, yellow, or
You
red
can
dot that shows
yeah,
up in the
this is
tooltip.
this is the status of the entity. You can read it
Oh
via
my
scripts. You
god.
can also set it to a custom thing via scripts, which a lot of mods do. In Pi, we do it for like you're missing, Fabo Gaia for your plantations, or you're missing Moondrops modules,
Mm-hmm.
or your caravans are out of food. In Crastorio, they have one that says you don't have the research unlocked to mine this entity. So it says disabled. You cannot mine this entity. This overrides that and says, yeah, we have what the current status is, but then we also have extra information below it.
So does this work only on entities that have an on or off state, as you're mentioning the green dot, or does it also apply
This works
perhaps
on
to...
everything,
Okay.
period.
So is this like Game Shark for Game Boy like level stuff where you're just like writing
Pretty
over
much.
values in memory?
Yeah, pretty
This
much.
has
So
got
this
to be
is
patched, right? This is a bug. Like this is not going
it's
to
not a bug.
survive.
That's the
No,
thing.
no, they're not going to
It's
patch this. This is on
it's
purpose.
not a bug. This is on purpose. It's just something that nobody's ever done before.
Oh my gosh.
It's a clever. This is one thing that's very interesting about the Factorio engine is that so like I've in the past I've said that if there is something you want to do that the API directly supports, green light, go have fun. You're very likely to get success. I mean, I suppose you could like make something so protracted as to somehow break something, but generally speaking, you're fine. When you have to do runtime stuff that requires you to do things outside of that scheme, or at least in ways that are you're kind of you're doing your own game dev here, then things get more dicey and you start fighting the engine more often than not. But every now and
Yes.
again, you'll come across something like that where you can creatively take advantage of the natural consequences of what the engine is doing in order to convince some sort of reaction that you're trying to do. In this case, custom tooltips. And that is very smart. And now I'm wondering if I could go to Galdoc's manufacturing and update my tooltips, because
Probably.
there was essentially the notion of you may or may not want to have. I spent like a week and a half just making these really intricate and explanatory custom tooltips for the machined parts in Galdoc's manufacturing. And
Uh-huh.
then some people loved them and some people hated them. And so I made it so that you could turn them on or off. But the problem is that because these influence stuff at data stage, it had to be one of those things where you started up your world with this setting and then couldn't change it. I mean, there is sort of a hack around that. You basically go back to the main menu, you change the setting, reload everything, and then when you load your save game, you tell it to update and sync the new settings. But beyond, like, it's very tedious and not fun. And if I could just change the tooltips live, then you could just make a
Interesting.
setting that you could change in runtime.
Interesting.
Yep.
Great.
Crazy stuff. See, this is the kind of thing that's so interesting because like this all just started with a basic idea of like, what if we had heat beacons?
I want to bring up that the original implementation was about 40 lines of code, period, and it is currently sitting at 642 of scripting and 300 of data stage
There you
editing.
go. So about 1,000.
Yeah, pretty much.
No big deal. No big deal. Yeah, that's so crazy. All right, let's keep rolling into some of the other mods though, because you've got quite a few, and I want to hit on some other ones. So let's keep going here. What are some other mods you've made?
Piecewise undergrounds. This mod started with the idea that what if let me back up. You know when you put two underground pipes down and you it doesn't consume any pipes, it just puts them down, you technically consume the pipes in the recipe. It was always a weird abstraction because for the vanilla length of I think it's 10, the amount of pipes you lose if you use a shorter underground isn't much, but then if you get modded pipes that are 50, 100, 200 tiles long and you put them 15 tiles apart, you're losing a lot of material. This
Right.
mod started with the idea of what if you don't use those materials in the recipe? What if you consume those materials when you place them down?
Ooh, that's kind of
Mm.
nice.
Which is really cool, except nobody wants to play with it because it doesn't do anything visually. So nobody understands the importance of guys, this thing is really cool. You gotta try this.
Right.
Um, So this is like the third or fourth mod I actually started working on, and it only released a couple months ago because that's how long it took. And it has been rewritten, I believe, 3 times. There's so many issues with it. I don't want to go back and fix it. I have multiple rewrites in mind that require me basically throwing the whole thing out, so I'm not
I
touching it
hate
right
that
now.
feeling.
I
Yeah.
get that. I get that. It's a cool idea though, because it'll refund you basically the amount you didn't use, or it won't spend them until you build it. Which one of those is it?
It won't spend them. So
Okay.
the pipe to ground recipe only consumes a couple iron plates, no pipes. And
Gotcha.
then when you place them down, it'll consume the pipes from your inventory.
Can this work with belts too, not just pipes?
So, no, because the issue I've run into is bots. Bots make everything worse.
Mm.
The current plan is if you don't have enough items in your inventory to connect them, just don't allow you to place it, which works great because then you can't place it, there's no way for you to like place them and then they connect, but you don't actually have enough items for them to connect. But if you place them as ghosts and then bots come and build them, well then
Sure.
they're there, they're going to connect. So I have to disconnect them and then wait for bots to place other entities on the ground and then reconnect them, which breaks so many different things with the engine, which is fine because I can create items that look like they connect but don't actually connect. They're technically a valve that doesn't have any flow to them. So they connect but no
Gotcha.
fluid flows.
Sure.
You can't do that for belts.
Yeah, you can jank it out with the
And there's
pipes, but
no
not
way
with the
around that.
belts. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting. Huh.
I haven't figured
Jank
out a
it
way
out.
around that, and I'm not going to figure that out until I rewrite the whole thing again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool idea, though. You know, the dynamic cost. There are other, I think, factory games that are more like that. Like, I'm trying to remember, but in my brain, there's some sort of memory of like, you know, when you're building a underground belt, essentially in this game, it just spins the belts, you know, based on the length of it. But I don't think that game even had specific entities for underground belts. You know, and that's also like the difference between Satisfactory and Factorio is in Satisfactory, the buildings, you know, are spending the intermediates as you build them, and you get the intermediates back when you deconstruct
right.
them. There are no entities in terms of items.
It's like the rails.
Yeah. So
So the next mod is basically entirely what you were saying. There is no intermediate entity.
ooh,
This is actual underground pipes. It was, as I was developing piecewise undergrounds, I came across the idea of, well, I'm creating all these excess entities in between pipe grounds. What if you could just place the underground pipes?
Hmm.
So all this is it adds a single or a duplicate of every normal pipe entity that is just a below ground variant, an underground variant that has no collisions, and it only connects to other undergrounds. And then the piped grounds are just a transition between the two layers,
ooh. So you get
which
like
is
a Sim
great.
City
It's
like
amazing.
water, like fluid layer underneath the ground. I mean, you don't get to see
Yes,
it that
you
way,
get
but
two
yeah.
layers of fluids.
Oh.
Um, it's awesome. It plays amazing. I spent so long trying to get graphics to work, and then eventually realized, hey, why don't I just make it transparent? And that's good enough.
So
Um,
when they cross, do they? If they're transparent, you kind of get like the red and blue color of whatever the
so,
fluid is.
like two underground pipes.
Mhm.
So here's the thing: every underground pipe collides, so you can't cross. This is one of those things
Oh,
that
there's a
changes.
strong limitation
There are
here.
two layers. It's not you
Yeah,
have a separate layer and they only go in one direction. It's you have your normal layer of pipes and you have a second layer of pipes.
that's kind of
However
cool.
you configure those is however you configure those. And this is one of those graphical edits that I did do that turned out well, at least. Um, is it takes the normal pipe to ground, like underground visualizations, and makes those the visualizations for the underground pipes, if you can picture that.
I think so.
Yeah, a
That's
little
okay.
bit.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I'll
pull it
put up
up
on
just so people
the
can see,
So it's like the
but
yeah.
dotted lines that are outlining the
yes,
underground connectors, but that's just what the whole thing looks like. Can
yes,
you,
but I had
is
to
it
edit
feasible
those.
to add a third layer? Is that like impossible?
I've gotten that request before, and it's basically impossible.
Yeah, I figured that would blow everything up.
So if you pull up the stream, it looks like this. The funny thing about the underground layers as they are normally is that they are not like edited versions of the sprite. It's just they cut the sprite down the middle. So the edges are wonky and it doesn't look
Mm.
very good. So I had to go through and take the normal visualization and edit out the spots where it disconnects. So it
Yeah.
turns into these nice curves and corners, and you
Yeah.
get,
It looks really good.
if I can, like you get these nice
It looks
crosses.
fine. Yeah, this is dope.
Yeah, it looks amazing. It took forever, and I lost my
Complete it.
progress halfway through, and that was annoying.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So then, and this massively changes the feel of the game because now you can't cross undergrounds. So
Yes,
how does
this
Yeah.
that
is
play out?
this enters the territory of what I would call mechanic overhauls, where you just play the game differently.
Yeah.
So as you can see here, the pipe to ground only goes front to back. I didn't want to change that. That felt good. So you can only take an above ground pipe on one side and a below ground pipe on the other side, and you can't place an underground pipe where the pipe to ground is.
Yeah, so the transition
That's more of
from layer 1 to layer 2 is inline.
It's a bit of a technical limitation, but it's also a gameplay limitation. Just because collision masks and other things and things Galdoc understands that most people don't. But gameplay-wise, it looks like you have sections of underground pipes next to your normal ones. So this is I believe, coal liquefaction setup that has underground heavy oil right next to everything else, and everything else is pretty much normal, but the heavy oil is underground everywhere.
Yeah,
I'd like
it's
to point out that
such
if
a
you zoom in
cool-
on the water and heavy oil near the boilers, or boilers, I like that you can actually see the horizontal segment of that orange dotted line sort of offset a little bit from the water as opposed to perfectly overlapping, and I can only imagine how annoying that was to make.
So that is because the sprites for the underground pipe, if you can see here, and the visualizations are shifted
Oh, are they
down about 12 pixels.
Clever. Very
So
clever.
the actual connections are still in the same spot as of the tile of the entity, but the visualization of it all is shifted down.
I see.
Cool.
And you can see the distance there between the two dots, the orange dots
Yep.
where it emerges into the.
And that is because
Yeah.
this is the underground connection shifted down a bit, and this is the above
Nice.
ground one. And that actually has a custom visualization for every direction.
Yeah, so for the listeners, basically, when you are highlighting your pipe network, it's got those little lines displaying where it is, and in this case, you can see the lines for both the underground and the above ground next to each other, so they're not like overlapping and getting in the way.
Yeah.
That's really
clever.
cool.
And
That's a fun mod idea. I think it definitely changes gameplay quite a lot, but it's not like it's not such a big change that it's, you know, a massive overhaul, but it's very an interesting idea. I'm like, would I want that or not? I can't decide.
It's
I kinda
very
do.
fun, but it has the issue of I have no migrations right now. So
Ooh.
all of your existing pipe networks would break. And the only reason I don't have migrations right now is because I have to handle the edge cases. So if you have two parallel underground segments, those are going to connect now.
Yeah.
If you have two crossing underground segments,
I was
those are
about to
going to
say,
connect now.
there's nothing to be done for that. Yeah. There's no way
I
So
would
resolve that.
I'm planning on adding simple migrations where it just connects the ones that don't interact with each other, and if they do interact, those connecting pipes would be deleted.
yeah.
But then I think I am going to put in a like do-it-yourself migration where it just places everything down and you have to fix all the issues. But those are really annoying to implement, so haven't done that yet.
I think I would be far more probable to use actual underground pipes if there was a way to, and you could probably do this fairly easily. I don't know if it's something you're interested in doing because it adds an item, but it would be to have a straight pipe. Because the normal, for when you're placing the underground pipes, they will all connect to each other. But I would want to be able to run two underground pipelines parallel, like next to each other, both going in a straight line. So you could have a
So that
pipe
brings me to
section that
two
only
things.
goes straight.
The first is that this mod does not add any new items, no new technologies, no new recipes. All you do is you hold a normal pipe in your hand and press G or whatever the keybind is to swap rail layer for elevator rails, and that brings you to the underground pipes.
Okay, that's
And you press it again and it swaps it back.
Yeah.
And that is really cool and really, really neat, except it causes so many issues with duplicating items and voiding items and all these other things that I'm still solving a year later. But as far as pipes that can go next to each other, this mod has full compatibility with every pipe mod that I've tested on the market, including flow control and flow configuration, which allow you to place pipes that don't connect to each other.
Got it. Cool.
Yes, I totally agree. What you should add to the mod is underground tanks. Sorry.
Yeah, let's just find 15 features that he should add to make it a different mod.
No, this is great. I absolutely adore this. This
cool.
looks amazing. Like I kind of like the excuse me. I don't say added realism because realism in this game, what does that exactly mean? But it's sort of like a different yet still logically consistent schema for approaching the design question of how to address underground piping.
Yep.
And I'm actually curious what it plays like enough that I would, if I play again, I may actually include this one just to see how this influences how I set things up. Because, like,
That's the funny thing. Nobody has told me how it plays,
I
but I
hate
haven't heard
that,
any turn
but I know
keys,
what you
so
mean. It's like, I need feedback, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
It feels like one of those mods that reasonably you're like in a slightly, alternate universe, like this is how Factorio just has always worked. Like it's very much that kind of idea where it's like this could be because
Mhm.
have you guys played Factory Town? This is how Factory Town works with
I've not.
fluids.
No. But
Um,
yeah, that makes sense.
I've heard of it.
yeah, it's a
I
really
think I
fun
know what you're
game.
talking about.
And there's basically just a fluid layer underneath the ground that you can transition into or out of that allows you to run things. Now, there are crossings that specifically like when you cross one straight over another straight, it allows that. They don't mix. But otherwise, like Factory Town is this same idea. And they add in the idea with Factory Town, you can go above ground in 3 dimensions, kind of like Captain of Industry or whatever, where there's like a few layers. But overall, it's a similar idea, and it plays out really well. So it's just kind of a cool thing.
So the other fun bit of compatibility that I have here is this has full compatibility with no pipe touching. So if you have that mod installed,
Oh yeah.
instead of just making it so that you can place them parallel, each pipe type has a separate layer.
Oh, so you
So
kind of
that's
do
when you
have
can
3 layers
Wait.
ish.
kind of. It's actually however many layers you have of pipes. So
Oh,
in Pi, you have your normal, your niobium, and your multipurpose. So you would have 3 layers of undergrounds.
I see.
But
that's
there's no
super
good
cool.
way to pick up only a specific layer if you mine one, which is an
Sure.
edge case I still haven't handled. But
So as long
each
as you're
each
playing a
layer,
mod that adds some pipes, then you'll have multiple layers.
yes, that or you're playing with like color-coded pipes, except color-coded pipes add so many pipes that the collision mask overflows and the game crashes. So we're still running into that issue, and I still haven't fixed it because I can't. But that is one of those other fun bits of compatibility where
That's
it's
great.
like, yeah, you have different layers now. So that's one of those ones where you can put the like say you have iron and copper, you can place iron undergrounds below copper pipe to grounds because they're on separate layers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Code Green was asking in the chat, how do you convert between the pipe colors? Like if you have an iron and a copper, how do you connect those two?
You don't.
Like you never
If you're
can, just ever.
if it's no pipe touching, you can't connect them. Period. You have to go through storage tanks or pumps or maybe valves. But
Okay, that's what I was going to
if you
ask.
have
Do they
color
all
coded
connect?
pipes, for color coded pipes, it makes a colored version of all of those entities. So I don't believe, can connect them ever.
Interesting.
That would actually be an interesting item that could be made, which is just like a I'm not sure to an adapter, a pipe adapter,
Mm-hmm.
like a 1x1 entity that has the up, down, left, right connections. And you can just like hook stuff into it that would just literally be exactly what I just said, a pipe adapter, where you can connect copper to iron if you have those.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we got to keep rolling. I love this. We could talk
Sorry,
about this stuff all day,
I feel
but
bad.
let's hit on a
I'll
few
keep thinking of
more
ideas.
of your mods because you've got a lot of mods, and there's still a lot we haven't even started talking about yet. So let's keep rolling here. What is underground indicators? Let's just roll through this one.
Underground Indicators Fixed is a fork of a mod for 0.16. The original mod for 0.16 was if you had a underground belt or a pipe to ground in your hand, it would show you other underground belts or pipe to grounds that you could connect to with these cool little indicators on the ground. It's very nice for mods that add very long pipe to grounds or that kind of stuff because you can see them from really far away. And then it was eventually ported to 1.1 by somebody else, but that mod had a bug in it where if you had a specific string of events, it would just crash. Something about bots and ghost entities. So I released this mod as a fix for that, and then eventually was like, hold on, I can do some other things. So I added a couple of new visualization options. So normally it was like this just bar where you could place the pipe to grounds and undergrounds, but now it looks like the underground connection, like the little arrow between underground belts, or the little dash between pipe to grounds that you see in the fluid visualization.
Very nice.
And then I also updated the scripts to work with advanced fluid handling where there's multiple underground connections. And I also updated it so that because of 2.0 pipe connection things, it only shows connectable entities. So if you have something like no pipe touching and you're holding a normal pipe to ground, it'll only show you connections for normal pipe to grounds and not something like niobium pipe to grounds.
Wow.
That feels
Okay.
like one of those should be vanilla things.
This one is really cool.
Yes.
I'm looking at the mod page right now, and I'm like, I might actually try this out on my PySave.
It's my number one recommendation for PyMods, just because it's awesome.
Well, and it does belts
Um,
and pipes, and it shows you the square. So for listeners, like what it does is it kind of like imagine if you've already got. I mean, in most cases, you build undergrounds two at a time, so there's not a lot of halvesies, but it does show
So
you
that
if you have a halvesy, it shows you where the output square would be if it was at max length. But then also when you're building one, you know how the vanilla kind of as you drag it, it shows you the green, but this is kind of showing you where that green spot is before you get there.
so that was a feature copied from Underground Indicator Distance or something, where it would just show you the length of the underground and how far it can go. That's just a port of that into this mod. It was a really simple addition, but that's configurable as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, it
But
looks really neat, and it helps
yeah.
you kind of build it faster, I think.
And the best part of this mod is they're animated. All of the visualizations are animated.
Well, you just sold me. I have to see what that looks like now. I can't not know.
I have it on the stream if you want to throw that up, but it starts from the entity that is solo. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
want to
have
see this
connection,
actually.
and it animates it out until the very
Oh
end.
wow, that
And
is so cool.
it's so cool because all it is, if you know what I'm talking about, is it's just corpses that are being created, fading
Yeah.
out, and then die after a couple of seconds.
Corpses, yes,
Um,
beautiful.
Arrow
but
corpses.
for PyMods, because the undergrounds are so long and you sometimes have so many, it can get so busy. So I just added an option to not render the animation,
Yeah, good choice on that too. I love that. That's a sweet mod. That's
and it
definitely
just
one
becomes static.
that I will check out, and we'll call that one the highlight so far, as like for the mod spotlight. You know, like that one feels like one that I think a lot of people will appreciate using in a large variety of saves. So
I just got to say, I love the solution of we put corpses in the ground in order to make this work. It's like some of the hoops that they make you jump through in order to
That
do
was
this.
the original
awesome.
mod implementation, and it works, and I love
It's great. All right, so continuing to roll on here, what items do I have?
So that mod was a request from, I believe it was Tiny Boss on the Factorio forums. He sent me a DM that said, "Hey, I want to see what items I have of different qualities in my logistic network. I want that to show up in my tooltips." And as we talked about earlier, tooltips aren't editable runtime, and that definitely wouldn't be doable with the current tech. But I was like, what if we throw it in a GUI instead? So that's what this became, was you can see the items in your logistic network inside of a GUI. And it's just that. Like you hovering over an entity, or it's got a couple settings. You press one button and it searches the network, or you can just hover over it and it searches, or you can hold it in your cursor and it searches. And it shows everything that's in your logistic network. If you're not in a logistic network, it finds the closest one. If you're viewing a different surface, it can find the logistic network on that surface or on the one that your player is standing on. If you're viewing a space platform, it can view the hub and the inventory there.
Okay. So super
And
useful for quality.
It's full quality support. So if you add Not Melon's like 500 quality mods or 500 quality tiers, it will show 500 quality tiers.
What did he do?
Oh, you don't know about this,
Have you
Galdoc?
never discovered
No.
extended quality?
500.
He had some fun with the names. You need to open the GitHub for the mod and just read through what he named each tier, because it's a journey. Or if you really want the full
that was
experience,
my favorite way to stress test the mod.
you need to play with the mod, and you have to actually get each tier of item to learn the next one. That's the real
I
journey.
don't want to do the thing you just said. I will
The
read
thing
the
I've
names,
been
though.
curious about, this is a total tangent, and someone in the chat may know, or protocol you may know. If you play with that mod, the Not Melon one that adds like I don't know if it's that many tiers. I think it's more like 200 tiers of quality, right? I don't. It's a
whatever
huge
the
number.
prototype limit is for quality. Which
It's a huge number. It might be
isn't 500, but
255.
it's insane.
Yeah.
It might be
Anyway,
that. Yeah.
all
I'm
that to
looking this up
say,
right now.
what I'm curious about is, does it get faster or slower? Like, because if you're upgrading your quality modules and your speed modules and your productivity and all that, if you're upgrading all those with more and more quality, is it actually getting faster and faster to get to the next tier of quality, or is it getting slower and slower? Because there's like different exponentials fighting against different exponentials, and I don't know which ones are winning in the long run. It's definitely going to explode by the time you get to like quality 10. It's either going to be really hard to get to quality 11 or like really easy.
I believe it just gets faster.
Because legendary is like already crazy fast, but then if you go to super legendary, is that then easier or harder than legendary? And then super, I don't know. I'm curious. I kind of want to play with it at some point just for fun.
Infinite quality tiers.
Yep.
I have tiers, all right.
Code Green is saying with recycling it's easier, and that's what my head says. Because with anything that has productivity in it, it'll definitely be easy. Because once you have max productivity, it's free to re-roll items.
Yeah, that one you're just waiting for the quality to hit,
and that'll happen instantly with like super duper legendary quality modules in super duper buildings that are crafting in one tick. That's going to be super easy. So I'm guessing by the time you get to like quality 7 or 8, it's pretty much a joke, but I'm not totally sure.
May I have the floor for a moment?
Yes.
Okay. Normal, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, mythic, fabled, divine, exalted, supreme, marvelous, fantastical, timeless, immortalized, miraculous, cosmic, illustrious, unreal, godly, revered, glorious, majestic, prodigious, bewitching, mystical, deific, ancient, exceptional, incredible, impossible, supernatural, exuberant, extravagant, glamorous, obscene, obscure, obnoxious, cringe, based, spooky, rich, poor, stinky, and it cuts off. Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's just a taste.
If you want to share my stream on the stream right there. This is what the normal UI looks like for Witty. It's just this simple little thing. You see your 5 normal quality tiers. It just goes and goes and goes.
Yeah. 255
now that's how you stress test a mod.
Icons. Yep, that'll do it.
I'm reminded of an iPhone ad where it was like this iPhone, but it's like absurdly long. And this is exactly what this brings to mind.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right, we got to keep rolling. I love this stuff, but
sorry.
Yeah. So for the listeners, basically, if you download this mod and Protocols mod, your tooltips will be 50 tiles tall. 50 by 5. So that's what items do I have, and that's actually quite useful for quality games, especially with lots of surfaces and stuff. I still don't know if this is possible. I think I saw somebody was working on it. The thing that I really have always wanted with quality the most, I think, was the ability to request just whatever quality I have in the network for science to the space rockets. But
I've heard a couple of requests that are like that and similar, and it's always I've talked with a couple other people about it, and it's always the answer of, well, you're dealing with quality, so not really unless you want to run 50 scripts a second.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there's a couple more that you wanted to hit on real quick, so let's talk about those.
Simpler one, default settings. So whenever you place entities down, normally, like if you put down an inserter, it doesn't have any of the filter checkboxes selected. It doesn't have any filters. It doesn't have a stack size override set. If you put a belt, or not a belt, like a display panel, it doesn't have any of those settings set. With this mod, it allows you to set custom default settings. which also works for the circuit network, which is really nice for some people.
Meaning what? Like, give us an example of what you would do with it.
Sorry, I just
Like-
spaced up for a second.
I always want my inserters to spawn with the use filters checkbox checked, and I want it to be on blacklist.
Oh,
And
okay.
whenever you place down inserters, they'll spawn with the blacklist selected. If you put a
Ooh.
filter in there, they'll
Okay.
always spawn with that filter. And then as the circuit settings go, they don't get set when you place them down, but when you connect them to the circuit network. Which brings me to the issue of there's no event for when something is connected to the circuit network, so I had to develop an entire library around that.
Oh man, I'm going to use that by the way. I'm
I know
absolutely
you
going
are.
to use that.
And I have
told you about it.
so many more things I'm going to tell you about that you're going to love.
Oh my god, I'm so ready.
As far as default settings go, it just allows you to be like, yeah, I always want, whenever I connect a belt to the circuit network, I always want it to be read belt contents on hold just that belt. And it'll do that. And then if you disconnect it from the circuit network, it will clear those settings, which is great.
That is great.
The funny part is it only supports specific entities right now because I have to program in each entity individually. I have a whole handler system for it, but stuff like the checkboxes on the inserter, I can just program in like that's just a property I have to plug in. But stuff like the filters, I have to manually take out and put back in. Like
That's a
all
lot.
of the circuit conditions on like enable disable, or if it's a control signal, I have to manually program, hey, you need to get this control signal and save that to a specific value. And I have to do that for every entity for all time. So it only has a limited selection right now.
Interesting. So for me, the idea would be like I'm thinking in my Panadons run, I would probably want to change the default for belts to be when they get connected to a circuit to not have enable disable checked and instead have read all belts checked because I use sushi belts all the time in Pi.
And that would completely be doable.
And then all I would have to do is wire up a belt and I could just move on with my life and it would be reading the whole belt. Wow, that sounds amazing. I should do that.
And the best part about this is it stores it as generic or individual. And also it only shows if it has circuit settings. Like belts don't have entity settings, so it only shows the circuit settings options. You can save, load, or delete. So you can also, if you place something down and it doesn't automatically load, you can just click load, which is awesome for testing at least. But it saves it as generic or individual, and what that means is it saves it per prototype. So for belts, if you select generic, it will apply to all belt prototypes. So the belt, the fast belt, and the express belt, and any other belts if you have other mods. If you select individual, it will only apply to the transport belt and not the fast belt, not the express, not the
Got it.
everything else. I expect some more generic use, but then if you have something like assemblers that you always want to be a specific recipe, when you place that building down, if you set it to individual, it will always select that recipe.
So you're telling me with my pump jacks, I can just select the water recipe and I won't have to select the water recipe on every pump jack I place forever?
I need to program assembling machines first, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Because that's the only
if you
thing
tell me to
I
program
do with.
assembling machines, I'll program the assembling machines. I just haven't gotten to it because nobody's requested it, and I'm kind of just pushing it off.
Yeah,
so.
well, pump jacks in Pi, they technically have other you can do like a drilling fluid to make like tar or crude oil out of nothing by using drilling fluid in small parts. But 99.99% of the time, all you're using a pump jack for in Panadons is the water recipe. So that's a perfect example of a default recipe.
Other things would be like train stops, the generic circuit settings for train stops, possibly logistics chests or Roboport circuit settings, or what was the other one?
Can you fill Roboport request slots? Like if you
I
wanted
cannot.
every Roboport to want 5, construction bots in it?
I cannot with the current implementation, but I have a couple of things I'm working on to do that.
Yeah, because that's a different kind of setting, I
put
guess.
that in. But the one thing I am working on implementing eventually is if it is set to a parameter, when you place it down, it will. If you configure this to have a parameter in the settings somewhere as like a inserter filter or a circuit connection. When you place the inserter down, it will open up the parameter GUI and let you select that filter automatically.
So basically everything you place would be equivalent to a parameterized blueprint of just that thing, but without having to actually do a parameterized blueprint.
So say if you had your pump jacks, you could put the parameters, the recipe,
Sure.
and whenever you place a pump jack down, it will open up the parameter to be like, hey, do you want to select a recipe for this?
Which what would it do if a bot places that thing?
It just wouldn't do anything.
It just wouldn't open the GUI, I imagine.
Yeah. It would only open the GUI if there's a player involved.
But if you had the default one set as water, that would
if you had a
do
default,
it with bots.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the other half of this is the library behind this is getting expanded. It currently only supports circuit network events, basically everything you could think of. It's getting expanded to support electric network events. And then I have a list somewhere that I need to find what it's supporting.
You wrote module slot changes on here.
So it's getting Lua events for when a module slot is changed. It's getting Lua events for when a circuit signal is found or lost. It's getting a event for when crafting is started on an entity, when crafting is stopped on an entity, and it's getting an event for when a product is finished.
How performant
which has never been done before.
Is this?
I didn't think that was possible.
It is possible. The caveat with the last few is it needs to connect to the circuit network, and if anything else pollutes the circuit network, it will fire excess events. So it's going to have to override the circuit network connections.
Okay. Is it like a pulse then? A pulse
so the way it does it, it's the same logic that is used in non-standard beacons. It just connects to the normal assembler read working, read product finished, and just sends an event whenever that signal is detected.
I see. Okay.
And as far as performance, those ones will be opt-in per entity. It's not going to be an automatic thing.
Okay.
So I haven't decided yet, but it's either going to be you opt in the data stage, like, hey, I want this entity to be tracked for these events, or in runtime, like you say, hey, I want this specific entity to be tracked for that event. I haven't figured that out yet.
I have a question. Is it also, maybe this isn't a good one, but per recipe or even per product of a recipe? So like, let's say you have a recipe that says, I have made, I have a 50% chance of making X and 50% chance of making Y. And because exclusive probabilities aren't a thing, my soul hurts. But anyways,
mine too.
Check one on your bingo cards, listeners. Galdoc brought up exclusive probabilities again.
What? Wait a second. That's not fair.
If he didn't, I would have.
Okay, I'm sorry. At the tangent for a second, I was actually in a physics class where I had a professor.
We were already on a tangent, Galdoc. We got it. We got to keep going.
Okay, well, at one point, all I'll say is someone shouted bingo in the class, and he looked very perplexed.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But yeah, so is it like possible to have this on product finished for like a specific product from a specific recipe in a like a type of assembler? I don't want to say like a specific assembler, but like a all assembling machine ones or whatever.
The way I'm implementing it would be it just triggers whenever the recipe is finished, and then you would have to check for if that product appeared.
So we have to build our own filters.
Due to how it works, there's a couple of ticks of delay in the logic. So I think I might be able to implement that, but also probably not because things might get removed.
Don't take this as like a, hey, look, here's an idea. I didn't know if this is how it already worked. I don't want to.
No, it would just be this recipe has been finished. Send an event.
Sure. Okay.
It's definitely the kind of mod though that has like the default settings, back to just the mod in general. Like that's a super useful mod, I think, for a lot of people, because there's a lot of us that are doing the same thing over and over and over again. And the default that Factorio has is just not meeting our needs. It's not usually what we want. And so overall, I think this is another mod that like is worth highlighting, and like a lot of people are going to use it, and especially as you expand the options for it, I think it'll be even more wide-reaching usefulness.
Yep.
Sweet. Great idea. And more like great implementation. That's the kind of thing that just like the jank that you have to endure to figure these things out is very impressive to me.
Yeah, I have a couple hundred lines of just runtime handlers, and then about 500 lines of mostly unimplemented. Hey, for this entity, you need to do this thing and that thing and the other thing, and then on and
Interesting.
on and on and on.
Cool. You've got a degree in jank already. Useful jank, proper jank.
I don't know about useful. Some of it's pretty useless.
I don't know. Seems useful. All right. We got to keep rolling, though. Last one to talk about. Loaders.
Loaders. So this started as a request, I believe, on the Pi Discord of, hey, I want to be able to set loaders to be, or I want my loaders to stack was the initial request, and that was like, sweet. I changed a couple of values on a prototype and ship it. I was like, all right, well, I want to be able to set them to the lane filtering mode, which is something that you can do if loaders only have 2 filtering slots. And I was like, well, I can't do that with the same prototype. Kind of don't want to edit it. Why don't I make it so that there's 2 prototypes, one without and one with? And the one without has this little setting box on the side, and if you click the settings button, it shows up, says, hey, do you want this to be lane filtering? Yes or no? And if you click yes, it'll swap the loader entity out for one that has the lane filters. And that was great. And then Wooba went and decided, hey, why don't we have an option where loaders can only output full stacks of items? I thought, sweet, that's awesome. There's a slight problem with that. I need another loader entity. What happens if I have both mods enabled? Ah. It looks like you need to do lane filtering.
By
Need some help?
only full stacks, you mean like if there were 2 items in a chest and you had stack size of 4, it wouldn't output them yet. It would wait until there's 4.
Correct.
Kind of like how
For
miners...
clarity, we're talking about belt stacking, the DLC feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll only output full stacks of 4. Which is great, except you have to handle, okay, you have a GUI already. Do you want to make another GUI next to it? Do you want to just expand the current GUI? All right, well, you replace this item. Well, the last entity seemed to saw was replaced. Does it do anything with that? Well, now you have a default setting option of, well, do I want to, when I place my loaders down, do I want them to be lane filtering or not? Do I want them to be stacking or not? Well, now that interferes with the original placement logic, and that was just absolute chaos to work with, and I kind of sort of got it working, maybe, with 2 loader mods. And then Whoop came out and said, hey, if your loader is right up next to a building, do you want it to insert to the full stack size, or do you want it to respect insertion limits like inserters do? Except that's another prototype, so I would have to add a 3rd mod and cross-compatibility between the 3 of them. And I said, screw it, I'm re-implementing this whole thing as one mod.
That's my fault. Well,
my
part, it's me.
That's not your fault. That's my fault because I put in the API request for it.
Well, for which one? The loader insertion
the
limit?
last one, the insertion limit.
Well, but it was, I mean, I don't know when you did that, because it was in my Discord, someone brought it to me that what was it? It was the insert. Oh, I'm sorry. No, loader insertion limit was the second one. I'm talking about a slightly different one. The loaders, inserters were getting stuck because the automated insertion limit... No, maybe this was loader related. Shoot, now I'm getting my things mixed up. The automated insertion limit was causing a problem with filtered inserters. Like if you had 10 inserters filtered to an item and they would all try to insert at the same time.
That's just factorial logic not working in your favor.
I think in this case, this one was slightly different. This was automated insertion limit based on, I remember
was it
now.
The labs?
It was when you hadn't, no. It was when you hadn't upgraded stack size yet on inserter hands. If you hadn't upgraded stack size, then the automated insertion, or the hard limit on inserting items above the automated insertion limit, the gap wasn't big enough sometimes, and your inserters could get jammed up even if you only had 3 of them. But if you upgrade the stack size, Factorio would automatically increase that. But if you hadn't upgraded anything, it wouldn't work. But the problem is that Pi allows for stack inserters even before you've upgraded stack size. So it was this weird thing, and we analyzed it a bunch in a big thread, and we tested all the things, and we ended up someone in that thread, I don't think it was you, but someone in the Pi Discord, one of the devs, submitted that request and it actually got fixed and changed. But the problem that had is it made the hard insertion limit for buildings way higher. And the hard insertion limit, by the way, is if you had 1 billion iron plates in your inventory and you just manually dump them into a building, how full does it get in that one spot? That's the hard insertion limit. And the problem is for people that were using the crane inserters, because those crane inserters can move like 200 items at once. So it made the hard insertion limit like 800 items bigger. And so that's a little knock-on effect of that change. That's the one that's quote unquote my fault among a couple other people. So I apologize because that was a slightly different topic. But then the loaders loading to max load size, or they were loading to the hard limit, and you got that change to the automated limit, which works very nicely with the change that we ended up making happen.
So I'm currently re-implementing everything as a single mod to hold all of those cases, because that just makes everything easier. And it was working great. And then I reset my hard drive last week and lost all that progress because it was not, in fact, back up to Git.
No.
So we're back to square one.
Oh no, I have had that happen with one of the things I did for Hidden Worlds.
That was annoying.
Oh, man.
That's awful.
It's a very
but
gentle word
it is
for it.
coming. It is going along. It is working, at least mostly. So
is
only
the purpose
annoying thing is
of
you have to
your
work around AAI, because
Yeah.
AAI sucks.
Yeah.
So is the purpose of your mod to be in addition to whichever loaders mod you're using, or do you have your own are you making a loaders mod, or is it a loaders add-on mod?
This is part of my mentality, is I don't want to add new items, no new recipes, no new technologies. So this will work in conjunction with any loader mod you already have installed. It requires something else to at least be installed so you can use the loaders in game. But then once
Gotcha.
they're created by another mod, I just hook onto that and be like, okay, well, now there's a variation for lane filtering, now there's a variation for stacking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Because Loaders Modernized already has the sort of, they have the lane filter on or off option. But Loaders Modernized, the stacking is a separate entity and you research it separately. You can enable in the startup settings that all your loaders just stack by default, and it's always on for all of them. But yours would be that stacking could be on or off for each loader individually.
Yep. This just says, hey, you
that
know
would
your
be new.
normal loaders that can only do one thing? Yeah, we give them all these dozen options.
In my case, I actually prefer the balance of the stacking being a separate entity, but that is very useful that you could turn that on or off for each one.
I consider loaders to be already imbalanced because the current every single implementation I've seen gives you loaders that are the speed of whatever belts you currently have, which in my opinion is completely overkill. So I already consider them unbalanced, so this is just throwing
for sure. Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's like the modder's job to figure out how to make loaders perfectly balanced. Right. I'm just saying, for my personal taste, I like it to be limited to belt speed, not belt speed times stack speed, because in Pi that would be ridiculous. Like there's a level somewhere of like, this is too hard versus too easy, and I think every person finds that balance in a little bit of a different spot. Yeah,
my ideal loader speed, if I was designing the mod, which I am in one case, but that's different, and I kind of implemented this, but the ideal loader speed is somewhere between 30% and 50% of the belt speed. Because then you still have to design around it as an actual thing, and not just, well, this outputs exactly one belt of this stuff. No, you have to split it or combine the belts or split the belts and insert or something along those lines.
Yeah. Awesome. Fair. Well, we got to start wrapping up this this stuff. So let's end with a couple closing thoughts and anything you want to add. But what mod of yours that you've made is your favorite? And I know favorite's a hard word. It can be a lot of different. It can mean a lot of things, but
that would have to be actual underground pipes. It's so clean. It works so well. The code is absolute chaos, but I love it because it works. And it always looks beautiful.
Yeah, it does look really cool.
It looks great. Like it's compelling. Like just to look at it, you can immediately get the function from the form. So it is a very well done thing.
Yeah, definitely one that I'd recommend you listeners go check out. Actual underground pipes, and I'll put a link to Protocol's mod portal link in the show notes, so you guys can just follow that and see all of his mods, because there's some we haven't even talked about. On that note, which ones haven't we talked about that you at least want to say the name of and just the one sentence summary of what it does? Are there any more you want to at least bring up?
Let me scroll the list. Max pump speed anytime. Right now in 2.0, your pumping speed is a function of the input and output fluid ratios. This just makes it work at the max speed regardless.
Nice.
No more trigger technologies, just removes trigger technologies from the game. Like, moves all of their unlocks elsewhere. It is terribly janky, but it works most of the time. I don't recommend it with planet mods. Don't use it because it breaks things and it breaks balance. Don't you dare. Don't. I've had extended discussions with their developers as like, wow, this breaks things.
That's
and
funny.
We still haven't figured out how to fix it. Item inserter, you can create an item insertion request for entities, kind of like module insertion requests for like assemblers and stuff. Building ghosts inserts modules. If you build a ghost entity that has modules in the module slots and you have those modules in your inventory, they will be inserted.
Oh.
It feels like vanilla.
That should.
I love it for Pi because it works with the alien life buildings. And if the requests are not specified, it defaults to that tier of module.
Oh, cool.
So like you put down a moondrop greenhouse tier 1, it'll insert moondrops tier 1. We already covered that. Player entity eraser just deletes all the entities in the area. Regardless, it doesn't do anything else. Super cooled combinators is a misnomer. It means they don't need heat on Aquilo. That's it. Because they shouldn't need heat. Beacons affect each other. It uses non-standard beacons so that beacons affect each other. Let's see. Squeaky selection in alternatives to squeak through. In 1.1, there was actually, in all the Factorio versions up until now, there was a bug that the selection box, when using a selection tool, was the collision box of the entity, not the selection box of the entity. That has been fixed in 2.0.
I think I actually have run into that before. That, like, now that you say that, I'm like, that sparks some questions in my head. Anyway,
you used to be able to, like, if you were doing a copy paste, you used to be able to like select things based on their collision box. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I remember if you were halfway on a tile, you could miss underground pipes that were in the tile you were selecting because they were facing away from the part you were grabbing.
And this mod fixes that for the most part.
Interesting.
Need a hand just increases the hand count of asteroid collectors. That's it.
Oh,
okay.
It was one of those like 2-line mods that somebody was like, "Yeah, I want this as an option." Okay, sure. Beacons affect themselves. Non-standard beacons. You put modules in, they affect the energy source. We already talked about thermometers. Chug. All it does is change the text on the delete button for fluid, pipes, and networks to chug. It does nothing else. There's nothing else that mob does. Don't question it.
Why? I have to ask.
Just because it was a joke that somebody made in the Discord channel, like, oh man, imagine if this said chug, and I was like, okay, it says chug now.
And then you did it.
I refuse to imagine this. I will realize it.
Exactly. That's amazing.
Read lab inventory just allows you to read the inventory of labs, which is not a vanilla feature.
Yeah, that's
surprisingly.
Useful.
Really. And I created that for vat brains because that's really useful for vat brains.
Exactly.
Tile placement helper is like module, or what was the name of the mod? Mouse over construction for tiles. If you hold a tile in your cursor, it will just place it all the way around you in your reach radius.
Gotcha.
It's perfect for like C block type mods, or you're landfilling your entire base with a car. You can just drive around and hold it in your
wave
cursor.
your mouse pointer around and hope you're doing it in
looping pattern. It does it all for you.
That's cool.
And then the last one is burner beacons that makes all beacons powered by fuel.
Nice.
And that's it.
Cool.
Awesome. So to kind of close
Respectable
out
repertoire.
here, what's that, Galdoc?
Said respectable repertoire.
Yes, lots of awesome things. And there's like, it's always interesting talking to different modders because there's kind of like these design themes running throughout. And of course there's a couple exceptions like Chug or whatever where it's like, oh, I did something different than my usual for this one. But mostly modders tend to have, like some form of like this is their ethos and style and design visions for their stuff. And so it's always cool to see like different libraries, because everyone has its own unique like fingerprint, so to speak. But what piece of encouragement would you give to people that are thinking about trying out modding?
I would say make mods that either you want to make or you want to play. Like if you're doing it for either the love of the game or sorry, if you're doing it for the love of the game or if you're doing it so that you can play the mod, you're always going to have fun. You're always going to find something you want to do, and you're always going to be like, "Oh, I can make an improvement there," and it's always going to be a good thing. If you're trying to do it to make money, you're in the wrong scene. That
Wanna get
just
mine
doesn't work
coins.
here. But if you're doing it for other people, you really need to know how to manage expectations and people and delivery times, and that's something I've worked on and I've gotten better at, but I've already had experience with, so it kind of works for me. If you're doing that as a brand new modder, you're already going to be having issues.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yup.
Galdoc, any closing thoughts?
No, it's been great talking to you. I definitely have several more ideas, which I'm so sorry. But no, I think it's good. There's a part of me that constantly wants to sort of like push our conversations towards design and modding and game design in general and that sort of thing. So being able to sort of revel in that for a little while is good. But yeah, the thing I would like I want to just highlight and sort of underscore a thing that was mentioned earlier is don't do this for the downloads. Don't do this for like the popularity contest. Don't do this to try to get as many mods on the thing. Like those metrics are not going to bring passion to the things that you make. And that passion is what's going to sustain you through I suppose a shorter project, you might just be able to toss it off. But like if it's something that you really care about, it's something that you'll actually support, as Factorio progresses forward and you have to do bug fixes and things like that or put it in context of other mod packs, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that is a very important thing to take away from this, because the more people out there making cool mods and cool content for people to play, the better.
Yeah. I do think the community thrives for every additional person that steps into it. So it's just don't be intimidated. Dive in, talk to some people, figure out what would be fun to change and make it happen.
And I also would like to point out that if I can sort of become an artist, so can anyone, because that was not my background at all. I know I'm not saying that everyone should, right? It's perfectly okay to say this is not my wheelhouse, but I think that, that's another sort of like, that's another whole conversation, but just to sort of throw that out there, it's like, if I can do it, so can anybody.
And Galdoc would be happy to help you get started on that journey.
Yes.
So go ask him about how to do it if you're interested. Yeah, I mean, back to the downloads idea. I was just like, I made a 1-line mod, and it grew to a couple more than 1 lines, but it's still not many.
It's at least 7 now.
Yeah, and it has 20,000 downloads, and it's like other people have written, and that's only because it does the most basic thing, and somehow people want it. It just makes lamps brighter. I didn't do it for anybody else. I did think other people might want this, and I was using it in my playthrough. So I was like, I guess I have to publish it because other people are going to want brighter lamps too. And now, like, I guess a lot of people want brighter lamps. And it's not a good mod by any means. I'm surprised there's not a better one yet. I guess no one, maybe there is, and I don't know about it because, like, it's not a good mod, but it's what I wanted. And whether you get
a good mod, I wouldn't.
Sorry. You're right. Good is a bad word to use there.
It's not an involved mod. You might say,
and when I say it's not a good mod, I more mean it's not made following like any specific design ethos or principles. It's not balanced carefully. It's not written by someone that knows anything about Lua. it's not all it was. The main thing I'm trying to get at here is back to the love of the game idea. And what Protocol was saying about make mods you want to play. Like, I was tired of how frequently I had to place lamps. And I was like, I just want them to be brighter. That's the only change I want. I don't want a 2x2 lamp. I don't want it to use more energy. I don't want a separate entity. I just want these lamps to be brighter. And that is all that I made. And so when I say it's not a good mod, in some senses, it's the perfect mod. But in other senses, like, it doesn't follow a lot of the things that some people feel pressured to work towards with modding. And I'm just encouraging people back to that idea of like, just try something, just write one line of code and see if it works. And, you know, other people might love it or they might not, but either way, you get to experience it. So
I'd also like to say that I am making another mod that does deal with something very similar, except it takes all of Factorio and now requires you to use RTX. Really, it's going to be ray traced rendering for the entire game. It's going to be great. It's a mod.
Wait, are you serious? I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No, I'm deadpanning something that is so absurdly complicated that it would, like, I would have to redo all of the entities. I'd have to get all the blend files for every single entity in the entire game, make an entire rendering engine, but then also make it RTX is the really complicated. Like,
I know.
Ray tracing.
It still sounds cool. No. I don't know if you were being honest. So
it would be great if it existed, but it would be like beyond a lot of work.
Yes, yes, it would.
Like, yeah, you could do that. Just crack the engine apart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe in 10 years we'll have that.
That's just a video buffer thing. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we are going to have to wrap up here. Do you have any final closing thoughts, Protocol?
Play with Chug. It's a fun mod. just because it's hilarious.
Do it.
Don't be worried about download numbers. Please go play Chug.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
I don't care about the download numbers. Just that one specifically.
Oh, man. Well, Protocol, thanks for hanging out. It's been really cool to hear kind of just pick your brain about all your mods and hear kind of the behind the scenes and how you've made them, as well as just kind of how you've designed things and how you get started with the modding process.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Indeed. I'd also like to say thank you for all of the help that you have given me across the many months and in advance. Thank you for all the questions that you made.
If anybody else needs help, you have my express permission to come bug me off of whatever I'm not working on right now.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Protocol. And as always, Galdoc, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Always a pleasure.
And yeah, I mean, this will wrap up podcast 47 of The Factory Must Grow. We will do, as usual, the first and third Monday of the month. So we'll be back on the 19th of January. If you have any ideas, questions, topics, ideas for topics, or like I said earlier, ideas for the mod spotlight or highlight area, let me know or let Galdoc know. We'll put links to all the relevant things in the description. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. Always remember, the factory must grow.
Take care.
Bye.